Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast with your hosts, Don and
Ray Armand. Here we are.
So interestingly, I knew you were going to say Armand there, and I always think, are you introducing us as Don and Ray Armand, or are you introducing yourself as Ray Armand, but it just happens to be both of our surnames?
I don't know. I'm often wonder that often when I'm even typing to a couple's name, I'm like, well, Don and Ray Armand, that's us, or Don and Ray.
Yeah, so I always expect you to say Ray, like Don and Ray, and then you sneak Armand in, and my mind's like, what are you doing there? Is that for us or is that for you? It's such a... Anyway, I thought I'd just bring it up. It's fine. It's not a big thing. Right, welcome.
I'll say Ray from now on.
Whatever makes you happy and authentic, then that's all that matters. So welcome back to another episode. I think we're on episode number 43.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. Yeah, and we're picking up followers slowly, and we appreciate any one of you that are following the journey and take the time to listen, because essentially it's you're giving up your time, and we want to make sure that time is well spent, because there is a lot of information out there at the moment. So we want to make sure that we are bringing authenticity and we're bringing it real. So if we start to veer off the wrong track, like between me and Ray, we're going to bring it back down, whether that is in the episode during or afterwards, and then we fix in the next episode, if you know what I mean. So that's what I'm hoping you guys are getting from us as we're coming across. So without further delay, well, Ray, is there anything you want to say before we get into the actual episode?
No, I'm feeling a bit nervous for this episode because I'm not sure what you're going to ask me, although I do spot some questions.
You've just given it away.
Well, I suspect the title of the episode might give it away too.
Oh, that's a very good point. Unless I hit it in
we'll form the title of the episode after the recording, but I never realized Don was keeping it a secret that he was going to be interviewing me. But I imagine the title.
Oh, there we go. Now you've definitely given it away. So I did think it would be a really good time to actually, we're getting guests on, and I've got a cool, like we said, I've got a few really cool dudes and dudettes lined up. Slang, hey, authentic. But it's, why not re-interview? Because I realized that in like the first 6 episodes, I interviewed you and Mom.
Okay. But
I think that this is going to be slightly different. Well, I'm hoping to, and we've got some new followers that you're not necessarily going to go back and listen to old episodes, but you're now a co-host, and it's like, okay, well, what is Ray about? And let's deep dive into that and really practice some. Like, it's a good opportunity to practice some of the questions that we've got, and go for it. So I hope you're a bit nervous.
Well, I'm not sure. Let me have a look at these questions.
But what do you know? Don't look at them. Okay, you can look at them. While I say something here, this is just a side thing. For the more observant people in the audience that watch the videos sometimes, we might start uploading them to YouTube. Don't give it away. You did it again. I would like you to see if you can spot what's different this week as opposed to the previous weeks. And that's all I'm going to say. Before Ray tries to say something clever that gives it away in an obvious way. Right, so on to my guest, my esteemed guest. So I do have to also give an intro, and the intro is going to go something like this. The person that I am interviewing tonight is a mother of 4, a multiple business owner, and an extremely driven, passionate, kind, caring, and all-round simply incredible person to watch in action. I'm fortunate enough to see both the outside and inside world. And there is a saying that I've got in my head that goes, who you are when no one is watching is more important to me than who you are when everyone is watching. And I luckily get insight into who she is when she thinks no one is watching, because I'm always watching. And I'm very proud to share this journey with her. But there are things that I know that you won't necessarily know from the outside, what goes on and how she does things. I'm going to try and get some of those out as we go on. But she is, in my view, a very, very competent and important, integral person in terms of her business for all of her clients that she has. And if you're looking for someone that's switched on, get in touch with Ray, because she genuinely will help you turn your business around. And do you know why? She cares so much, she'll tell you as it is. And I think that's such an important bit. Like we had a birthday party a month ago, a surprise birthday party.
For me.
And there was some of her friends. And I like to be a bit awkward sometimes. So I was like, okay, guys, let's get up and let's do some compliments. I'd like everyone to just say something about Ray. And one of the resounding things were there is like how loyal she was or is, and how she cares enough to tell them what they need to hear. And like it's almost like that true definition of what a friend should be and what someone is. So without further ado, and I'm going to just bring down that balloon that was riding up and like getting us off of Earth here, bring it back down to Earth, and just be like, okay, Ray, could you tell everyone welcome, good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on as a guest tonight.
Fantastic.
I know that
to be here.
we've had a lot of planning that's had to go into getting you here in person, so I appreciate the effort.
My journey was long.
Yes, all the way from the stairs. So the first question is, what do you do and how did you get into it? In any order.
In any order. So what do I do? I would say like I'm a business owner.
Ooh.
I did say recently too that I just don't, and I think I spoke about it on a recent episode, I don't identify as an accountant because I actively avoid doing accounting nowadays. I am a chartered accountant. So when I was at school, I always loved accounting, but it isn't what I planned on being. I also always loved doing physics and science. So actually, when I went to university, I started off studying physics. But I realized
you want to be an actuarial scientist, didn't you?
No, it wasn't actuarial science. I was studying with astrophysicists.
That blew my mind.
But I didn't want to be an astrophysicist. I was just doing it because I just loved physics. But when I was doing it, I realized after like the first year, I was like, there's no job or there's nothing I really imagine myself doing with this. And I really want to get into the business world. So why not just kind of move across? And so I moved across to do finance and accounting, did my master's in finance, and then did my training contract to be a chartered accountant. So I started my career off at PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers in Cape Town. And then when Don got his offer to come play rugby in the UK, I transferred to Deloitte in London. Not transferred, I moved companies. I got a new position. So then we got married and started having our family. And had our first, and then shortly after having our second, I then decided, right, it's time. Like I don't want to climb any of these corporate ladders. I want to start building my own business.
Much to my, at that time, disdain.
I know.
Yeah, well, I'd married a chartered accountant thinking, the money's going to be sorted post-rugby. She's going to be...
I said I will sort it with a business. So I thought, well, yeah, it was a good time to start a business while Don still had his rugby career, so that I know businesses take a while to get established. Not always, you can establish them quickly, but I thought at least then I can slowly build some great foundations, really kind of nail down what it is exactly that I want to do. And so, yeah, it was great that I started that early because originally I was like, right, I'm going to go into businesses. I hate the compliance side of things. I want to go in and make a difference. So I want to help them improve systems and processes, help them with their strategic side and like really grow their business. So I ran some training workshops, helping people to better understand their numbers in business and make decisions.
But you weren't just doing training workshops. You're doing slightly differently, weren't you?
Well, I made like a fun way to learn about accounting and finance. I ran these finance for non-financial managers workshops using a board game to explain the principles so that everyone in business could understand their numbers. So I'm really always been passionate about helping people to make their business decisions using their numbers. Obviously, there's guts, there's intuition, there's other logic to use, but people who are not from an accounting or finance background get really intimidated by financials unnecessarily.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was to help people to not be intimidated by the numbers and to have them as one of the sources of information in making a decision. So started off with that. But quickly realized that there was only so much impact I could have if the information that I was helping people to work with was of poor quality. So actually I needed to own the whole process and build up a team that would look after everything from the bookkeeping, because bookkeeping really is the foundations on which everything else is built in the business. Because if your bookkeeping is not done correctly, we can't pull any useful reports to make decisions. And so own that process from the bookkeeping all the way up to doing the compliance stuff, so like the accounts and tax, to then also helping businesses on the strategic side, which is what I'm really passionate about, putting amazing software and systems and processes in place and helping them with budgeting and cash flow forecasting and strategic decision making, basically. And so I took the route of owning the full process about 4 or 5 years ago. and really started building up like a more typical accounting practice. And since then, in the last 2 or 3 years, we've really kind of accelerated getting involved in more businesses. So we got the set up the swimming pool hire business, which we've got nicely automated, or at least my side of things. Don still has his manual bits of maintaining the pool. But we've got loads of automation and systems and structures in place that run that. So that's a swimming pool hire business. I helped Don set up his first e-commerce business a bit, and helped him then acquire the leadership and coaching training business. And I've started up another accounting practice, and now we have our digital course. So a few different businesses. So what I do is various things. I really just love building and fine-tuning businesses.
So now, as our dear friend Martin Barnes would sit here and go, okay, Ray, what do you do?
Well, as we had that episode with Martin Barnes, I've developed my pitch is that I'm not sure I really
go for it. Go on. Even if it changes, what are you scared about?
So if people say, what do I do? I'm the machine queen.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't like.
What does that mean? Why not? Why not?
Because I feel like it's big-headed.
No, queen for me represents power. You understand what you're doing. You understand how it works. And you're able to step into the responsibility that holds.
So machine queen is really because I was someone growing up who hated any form of routine, like boring. Do not give me the same breakfast. Don't
tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do. Every day must look different. I'll just be reactive and deal with stuff as it comes along. But I discovered the busier, resources versus responsibilities. The busier my life got, the chaos was just not the chaos. There was, when you have so much going on, you can't be making that many decisions in a day. So as I got more and more kids and started a business, there was just too much going on to be so spontaneous. So in building my business and in trying to make that a success, I think one of the first books I read was a book called E-Myth, which I've got you to read subsequently. And it's about creating a customer journey and making it repeatable with processes. So I really became obsessed with processes and routines. And that's kind of melted into my personal life too. So that when I say I'm the machine queen, it's even down to grocery shopping. Like I have there's a system and a process in place so that there's automation and like automatic routines that happen so that I can save my energy and also, for the stuff that counts, and save the interactions with my family for the stuff that counts. So I'm just like obsessed with putting machines in place.
But you also know that in every royal metaphor, there's always a dragon that can't be slain.
Yeah.
So you can't turn everything into a machine. Is that right? So would I be an example, or are you still going to try?
I constantly try to put a system and process to box you in, but I don't think I'm going to ever manage that.
I'm going to keep flying. I'm going to pretend I'm a dragon. So I love your story, and it's good to know a bit of background because I think it adds a bit of like experience and knowledge. And if anyone's listening to this and they go, wow, Ray's journey really inspires me, then listen to her advice. It's really solid.
And my background isn't just those businesses I've mentioned, because I act as the FD, like the financial director for a few quite large businesses. I've got experience across a few other industries too.
Define quite large. It's
quite large. They're not like listed entities.
Don't worry about that.
They're a multi-million pound turnover.
Yeah.
So in the like £3 to £4 million turnover range.
And you have some that are bigger than that, don't you?
Not that I've worked with some that are like 30, 40 million pound turnover on like project basis, but on a regular ongoing basis.
And realistically, you also this is where your knowledge or your experience makes you know that what you're good at is you probably wouldn't take on someone that's that big because you know that realistically they should have someone in-house.
Well, yes, I've been asked to buy people that size to come in and work full time for them, but it's just not well,
for one, because you know that you enjoy your business, and two, you have this very big motto, which is no one will ever own me. No one will ever be my boss, except Don.
So it's across various industries. Okay. Yeah.
So what has been your greatest lesson in your journey so far?
What's been my greatest? I need to have looked at these questions.
I
in
know,
advance.
but this, if you don't get to prep them, you can be more authentic. That's why I like it.
What's been my greatest lesson is that I am not a machine.
Okay, go for it.
Because I think as a highly driven person, and whether that's trying to be the best mom or business owner or both, which is in my case, I think you can treat your body like a machine, which means you can think that you can work late, not eat healthy, not exercise, and then wake up in the morning, be 100% present and energetic for your kids, go to work 100% energetic, and just repeat that cycle over and over again and think that your body's not going to rebel, but your body does. And as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I had a long period of suffering with anxiety, and because of those like patterns that I developed in my body, it was only like 2 or 3 years ago. I do slip periodically, sometimes for like a week I'll experience anxiety, but I can clear it off. And normally when I've been working hard, it kind of creeps back in. Whereas when I really suffered with it, it took me a few months to unwind out of it. And that was because for months and months and months, like 6 to 9 months, I treated my body like a machine. And it's just being more kind to yourself, more just realizing you're not a machine. And
I mean, I'm
treating your body
butting
with
here.
respect. Yeah.
And I think it's more, this is a really good example of like your journey of self-awareness is, I think you still treat your body like a machine, but you're aware that even your machine needs to be oiled and needs to be maintained. And like, so it's not about doing less than what you used to. It's about understanding that in order for you to be more efficient than you were before, you have to keep yourself oiled as the machine.
Yeah.
If you're going to use that analogy. And I think that you do way more than you used to, but you are in a much better place. And that's where like, if anyone turns to you and says, don't go down the self-awareness route because it's never ending and, actually at the end of the day, just remember that you can't just make a change that you're not aware of. So you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. Once you're aware of it, that you can do the same thing in a different way because you know where that path leads and how you don't want to go down there. And so you make sure that, why would you cold shower? Why would you ice bath? Why would you then force exercise on yourself? Because that's a way of releasing your mind. And I've certainly seen the change in like some of the stuff you get through. I'm just looking, sometimes I'm like, that's incredible. And you will notice when you're not resting yourself or like oiling your machine, and you'll jump back into your routine.
So it's interesting that you say I get through more. I think there is, so talking about your point that you made, the way I would describe it is like energy and how something feels in my body. I've learned to identify a lot sooner when I'm pushing myself too far, and then I've learned certain steps that I need to take to unravel myself, and I can pick it up sooner. And I've also learned those things that feed my energy and have more of those, and those things that I need to do to be a mom of 4, have an amazing marriage, have businesses, etc. If I identify things that have to happen but don't feed my energy, I've learned to outsource them, to find ways to like get them off my plate. So they're still happening. They're still happening, but I've found ways to be like, that's a priority for me not to do that. And so how can I outsource that? And it does, I suppose a lot of the outsourcing does require maybe to have the finances to do it, but I think you can be creative about it. I've heard of moms.
Don't put a block in someone else's
mind. I want to give them ideas. Because one of the things I outsource is like gardening. I do like gardening and periodically, but the constant.
What do you mean I outsource the gardening?
You outsource the lawn mowing. I outsource the maintenance of the beds. We have a gardener that comes.
Oh, the beds.
Now someone might say, well, that's simple. I just don't have the funds for that. But I've heard of really creative solutions of like, about swapping things with other parents, like if with childcare, or you could swap, if you really don't mind standing in front of the TV and ironing and another mom hates it. I mean, we don't do ironing full stop, but you could do ironing for someone else, and then I don't know, say I don't enjoy washing my dog. Can you wash my dog for me and I'll do the ironing for you? Like there's creative ways that you can achieve stuff that doesn't have to involve the exchange of money if you're intimidated by money. But I think the key is to identify those things that drain your energy the most, versus the least, and really try design your life a bit around that. And then I wanted one more point on my, that you say I do so much more than I used to. I do think there's a degree of just, getting familiar with things. Like I remember the first time I recruited someone, that took a lot of energy. But now, again, because I'm used to there's a bit of a process in place and I'm used to how that feels, I just recruit someone as part of just my general work week, and it's not a big event.
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. I think I wanted to bring in a point there about, especially because you're a lady speaking about business owner, and there's going to be other ladies that listen to this. For me, there was a big, insightful, like boing moment. So boing is my head exploding in a like light bulb moment, is listening to Fast Like a Girl.
Yes.
And the hormone cycles of a woman. And where we have this notion of like go, 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 go. Biology doesn't lie. Nature doesn't lie.
Yeah, 100%.
And what she introduced via Ray to me, because Ray's got this tracker around like cycles and everything, is she was saying that, so Dr. Mindy Peltz was saying that 3 weeks on, 1 week off, essentially for women, because of the way your hormone cycles work. Whereas men can go, 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 so because they reset quicker.
A men's hormone cycle repeats every 24 hours. A woman's hormone cycle repeats every 28 to 30 days. And you should basically plan the way you eat, the way you exercise, and the way you stress yourself. I would say sleep, but sleep should be consistent. But you should plan the way you eat, exercise, and like strain, whether that strain is, from
fasting,
etc.,
exercise,
all around your cycle. And I do think it's not it doesn't drive everything I do, but I am aware of it and I track it in a lot more detail than I ever have before since reading that book. And I imagine that feeds into my overall stress and anxiety levels too, because I'm very aware of giving myself at certain points in my cycle just slow down, like maybe don't squeeze in those extra evening work if you need to.
Well, I said also is that I'm not sure of the finer detail, but what I've noticed or made it easier for me as your partner is it's like on that down week that you're supposed to have, is that 10 or 7 days before like it's about that feminine energy, isn't it? Like where you're meant to relax a bit more, watch those rom-coms and like really bring that out. Is I have to try and remember to compliment more around those times. I'm still working on it.
Yes.
But just having that awareness of like feminine energy, and that's not to be sexist, but that like slow it down kind of thing, even allows you to remind yourself that if you forgot last month, this month you will say have another hot bath, or you'll have like, it's just little things that remind you that, okay, I'm actively, intentionally trying to relax.
And as a female, like going too deep on this, but when your cycle starts each month and you have that bleed, I mean, I don't know that.
Go for it. Authentic. We did say, if people can't handle it realistically,
basically, I don't want to say it should be symptomless, because I think that puts a lot of pressure, and I think there are symptoms that I think some people will always experience. But put it this way: the less symptoms you have,
or severity of symptoms,
the better you have listened to your body, and the better you have followed your natural rhythms. So if you have a cycle where you have a lot more symptoms, whether that's backache, pain, you'll know, pain, whatever it may be, like lack of sleep. So I could list 100 symptoms. But if there are more symptoms, and there's so many different types of symptoms, then you probably haven't listened to your body as well as you should that cycle. And let's see if you can improve it the next cycle. I think that has helped a lot. And what I wanted to say about that was, there was a point I was going to make around, I've forgotten.
Okay, well, I was going to say, it's that could have been another mind-blowing thing where someone from the age when they were really young doesn't know to listen to their body, so they've just dealt with the pain because that's what it's supposed to be. So you hear like your mom always saying, it's okay, it's just this way. Or your friends are like, oh, you're just going to have this, without realizing that actually it's how do you get more in tune with your body at that time. And that for me was a big one, because there's various women in my life that have always had that, some people just feel it more than others, which they might, I don't know. But from what that book said was there are ways that you can mitigate those effects. It was big for me because you want to see women in the workplace doing well. So one of the things was about like, if you could be so confident in who you are as a female in a workspace that goes, these 3 weeks I will push harder than anyone else in this office, but that 1 week is my down week. I'm not like, we're gonna protect that time. Imagine being able to manufacture that and it working really well.
Yeah.
Like, I think when we talk about inclusivity and diversity in teams, I think it's got to come to the finer things like what we're speaking about now.
And just so you know, as an aside, if you are a female who has gone through menopause and therefore do not have a cycle anymore, you are still meant to follow the 4-week cycle. Even after menopause, your body naturally goes through a 4-week rhythm, and so you should be doing the. You should, even if you wouldn't obviously know where your cycle is, but if you start to eat, exercise, and have downtime following a 4-week cycle, it will actually trigger your hormones to go into that cycle, and you will optimize overall. And that's all explained in this book, which is fascinating. And it's actually an interesting thing because we talk about, like, you get toxic masculinity and feminine. And there's been a lot of this
toxic femininity.
You get toxic femininity, and you get a lot of this like feminine, masculine stuff that has come out in the last, I would say, decade. And there's obviously this big move towards women 30, 40 years ago getting the vote, and now women having equal rights in workplaces. And I'm all like pro all of that. But I think what it's done is it's made people see feminine as, well, I don't think this is what's made it. I think there's always been an image that feminine is weak and masculine is strong, which men are, by the hormones, men have more muscles, they are stronger, but it's kind of overlaid across everything. And what I think people don't see is that there's strength in our femininity. And that I was even speaking to one of my other friends who's a business owner. And I think as a business owner, you have to, well, not have to, there's this need, or this perceived need, to be masculine, to be the leader of your business. Like, you have to bring a masculine energy to everything. But I think that as a woman, you can actually be a lot more powerful if you use and lean into your femininity.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go down like a whole rabbit hole of what that looks like. You will also know yourself. It's not about like showing up in a meeting and becoming like that big masculine energy and coming rah. It can be coming into a meeting and being more motherly, and that can actually make you a more powerful leader, actually lead to better results in the long term. And it doesn't need to be seen as something that's weak. And so yeah, it's just finding ways to kind of explore that idea. And you're still the leader of the team. You're not like saying that you got to get a man in there to lead, not at all. But it's not trying to act like a man when you're leading the team.
I think it's important to distinguish, like, I know from my point of view, when I mention masculine and feminine energy, it's got nothing to do with the sex of the person. It's what that energy represents.
Yes.
So that yin and the yang and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. You can't, if you have masculine energy, that means that you're driven, harsh, you keep talking people down, it's your way, the highway, there's no inclusivity in that, you're making solo decisions and you're just forging ahead. Whereas the feminine energy is this inclusive, understanding, teamwork, we know the direction we're going, and we're going to do this in the way that we all are on this together. And we're going to make sure that by the time we get to our goal, we're not going to be burnt out, we're going to be empowered. So I think that there's a lot of strength from the way I see the feminine energy, as opposed to what might be the more conventional way of it. But I'm happy that we've touched on that. And I think that we could go down a rabbit hole, and you said you didn't want to, because I got some more questions for you. So sorry to bring you back out of it. But what do you have a biggest regret?
A biggest regret? I really need to read these questions. I'm joking. I haven't tried to, but I should. Biggest regret? They always say you shouldn't have regrets, so I try not to dwell on things. So it's not like I have saying that I do have I do have saying that I think about, but it's not, I don't dwell on it. I often think to myself, if you go back to my journey, I said when I first went into business, I ran courses. And I must say, when I was at university, I stayed on an extra year. When I was at university, I tutored. I was employed by the university as a tutor to younger years. I then stayed on and was an assistant lecturer for the year. So I've always enjoyed teaching and helping. Like, I just get so much out of like helping, educate, and teach others. And that's always been my natural route. So that's what I started when I started my business. And then because I couldn't get the traction that I needed, I then went this other route of helping in a different way, like having to get more involved. But I've always been drawn to the, like, how do I teach at a bigger scale? And I've since discovered by going in with Identity Human and going into this like digital course world, that if I just wonder if I could take myself back 7 or 8 years and found out that there was a way for me to deliver what I wanted to do online. If I had started then, I wonder where I would be.
Yeah.
It's not a regret. It's just like, I had no idea. Well, actually, no, I say I had no idea. I did know about like things like Udemy, which was, do you know what
You're
Udemy
telling me this
is?
whole time you think about going online, you didn't until now.
But you know who actually put me off is Udemy. I don't want to. What's his name? We went to their recent celebration.
Just say someone.
Yeah. Okay. Someone that I spoke to at the time, they put courses on Udemy and found that there was I even looked into it, and you just didn't get much money for your courses. Udemy would sell your course at like £1 each. So I didn't ever further explore and really just stick to that idea of delivering what I really backed.
So you let one person's opinion and experience mentally block your no. That's a good example of what we try and say. You can listen to people,
yes,
but you need to assess yourself whether that is the truth or their truth.
But I also think a lot of the reason why my accounting practice has been successful is because I've become obsessed at looking at other people in the space who are running, and I've got better at doing this. They have to be running the accounting practice in a successful way that I want to look like. They inspire me. I don't want someone who has £1 million turnover practice who's run off their feet, working crazy hours and has bad customer reviews. I'm not going to look at what they're doing. I very much look for those people who are living the life that I want to live and look at how they run their business and learn from their mistakes. So I was doing that with the course, and I thought, well, this person told me that it just wasn't they found it not worth their effort. So I then didn't go into the online course space. And so that would probably be my biggest regret, is I think there's so much potential in the digital course space to have an impact at a much bigger scale, that I wonder what would have happened if I'd carried on pursuing the course route.
Yeah.
But I went into the accounting practice route.
No, and I think that's an important question, because I know people say I don't have any regrets because my life would change. But it's always good to be able to reflect, because it's always like you regret the things you don't do.
And I don't want to say I regret it.
No, but don't worry about the word regret.
No, but I think for me it's a more I wonder.
Yes.
Because I've learned an incredible amount by being an accounting practice owner, that there's no way that I would be able to run multiple businesses like I do now without this knowledge of having, like, I kind of get to look under the hood of hundreds of businesses, and I've learned so much by looking at other
your gift
businesses.
down to a T, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, I don't know what my gift, but yes.
You do. I do. That's what matters. Right.
And so, I think I don't regret it, but I do have a big wonder about, like, why didn't I get into digital courses sooner?
Good question. We'll find out as we go forward. So I got 3 more questions. Okay. So what's the most transformative experience you've had in discovering who you are?
Most transformative experience. Well, I don't know. I think a big one would be just being a parent, being a mother. Because being a parent, what the phrase I'm looking for is, it's your kids will push you to the brink and bring out all those inner, I don't want to say fears, but those inner parts, shadows that you haven't worked on, and they'll bring it to the surface. They have a way of bringing out the best and the worst of you. And so the kids have pushed me to the limits in so many ways that I've discovered stuff about myself that from my childhood and stuff that I didn't even know was there. And so being a parent has probably transformed the way I do stuff the most, even in business, because they've taught me so much about who I am at my most trying moments.
Well, I admire your tenacity, because you didn't just have 1 or 2 or 3. We've had 4. So you were like, oh, that's who I am. I'm going to find out deeper. And then you had another one. You're like, do you know what? I'm going to have another one just
And
because I'm on this
pretty
journey.
much, and I was after the second or third, I'm like, this doesn't feel crazy enough for me. I want a household that feels busy and crazy. And that's what we've got.
Okay,
I
good. Good answer, because I would have said something very similar. What motivates you to keep pushing through difficult times when others might give up?
I think it might just be an ingrained desire to prove people wrong and not have people tell me what to do.
Ooh,
I like just doing
a little sacred flaw that we've got here.
I like just doing the opposite of what people tell me to do and surprising people. I want people to be surprised by what I do. And maybe that comes from being the youngest of three, where
so like if I was said to you, I don't think that you're going to make £5 million in the next year. You think you're going to prove me wrong?
Coming from my husband as a joke in a podcast, not so much. But if someone said that to me, well, I just don't see how you're ever going to make £5 million. I would be like, I am going
By
to
the way,
prove you
I
wrong.
recognize what you've just said there, because with every duality, right? Every strength has an awareness.
Yes.
And boy, oh boy, that's been something that really gets on my nerves sometimes.
About
it's
me?
Like, yes. Is because you're always trying to prove it wrong. Even if I'm on your side, but you've interpreted what I've said wrong, you'll be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Even if it's something that you know is good. And or you never like being told what to do, right?
Okay.
And so that gets frustrating, even if we're trying to do something together and I'll say, do this, immediately it would have been something you thought about, but because I've told you, you won't do it, which we've said that before loads. And from my point of view, it's like really understanding people's personalities. And if you can understand that side of you, because there's a trait that goes with that, it makes me sometimes when I see it, smile rather than get angry, because I'm like, okay, because I know the other side of that, I will do this when people tell me I can't, is going to keep you going when others might not.
Yeah.
And that's, so it's like, it's almost being aware. And I want to maybe highlight just that, like the very thing that's your strength is also the thing that you might think is your biggest weakness.
Which is what we touched on last week. I think people can take and we spoke about it last week, a personal attribute that is maybe seen often as negative and only see the negatives, but they need to realize that every personality attribute they have that has a positive and negative side, and not be so harsh on yourself. So like, the way some of my personality traits I know can be quite offensive or abrasive to people.
Abrasive was the word I was thinking.
Abrasive, yeah. And I might have knocked myself down a lot in the past, but you have been amazing at being my sort of cheerleader and saying, no, there's a positive side here. And I think that comes from the R3 profiling that you do. And any profiling, as long as it goes down deep to understand yourself, is just really seeing, like, having your awareness as being aware of them, but really seeing your strengths and not putting yourself down.
Yeah. And you have to constantly do that.
And we spoke about that in detail last week.
Yeah. Okay. So then the last one here. So there's an element of leadership that I love, but I'm very careful of trying to bring leadership into this environment, because it's got such the narrative around this is so interesting to observe. Like me coming into LinkedIn for the last 2 years, it's just been an amazing experiment for me. But there are so many different definitions of leadership and what it's all about, and who thinks this, and the masculine versus the feminine energy versus opinion versus collaborative. And I'm like, isn't it so ironic that the very thing that leadership is supposed to be, simple, everyone agrees on, inspiring, is the one thing that can be the most divisive topic in modern day. And like, for me, it's like, where have we gone wrong? Why have we gone this way? And what's going on here? Who's overcomplicated it? So that's a preface to this question. Okay. Is what's the connection between self-awareness and effective leadership? So essentially, how's that helped you in your business and your journey? Because you're a business owner, you're a leader. And why, as an accountant, this is really important to really tie in why this question is important from my point of view, is accountants are generally numbers people, right? Okay. You're logic-based, fact-based. Personalities are not that. So why are you able to sit and go, that's really helped me, this has really done this? And how has that helped you become more effective in managing your team or your business or your clients or you as a mom? Where's the self-awareness element helped in your ability to lead people or lead others or lead your life? It's a big question, I know.
So your question, just in case someone missed it, because I had to read it to absorb it, is how basically has my self-awareness, or what's the connection between self-awareness and effective leadership? My personal self-awareness of like my personality attributes has obviously helped me to be aware of how I might come across to people when I communicate. Which means I can soften myself up a bit when I need to, instead of being so abrasive, because that tends to be I tend to be very like to the point and abrupt, and this is the way it needs to be done. Other people might have other awarenesses. But I don't feel like that's a big enough answer. So in terms of self-awareness, I think, does that extend to my awareness of other people's personalities?
What do you think?
Well, obviously, yeah, I think, and that's maybe what we touched on last week. It's being self-awareness is knowing what other people's personalities are.
Uh-huh.
And I must say, as a very numbers-driven person, I've struggled with this. So the only way I've really been able to get a result out of, like Don has personality profiled my team. Now, if someone presented my team's personality profiles to me and there was a once-off presentation, I would probably not ever know or think about how to apply that to my day-to-day managing of my team. But what Don has done by being like my little coach is he's been like, just be aware that this person on your team could have this happen because of their personality. Like they'll overcommit. They'll push themselves to limits. They will want to help to their own personal detriment.
They'll miss the detail. Yeah,
this person's probably going to miss the detail, or this person's, like, he's told me about what to look out for. And it's so funny because that has very much played out. And so because he's like coached me through what to look out as possible awarenesses for my team members, I've been able to support them and identify before they've even been able to identify when they are kind of reaching the red zone. And I can identify for them and put measures in place to help them before they push themselves to the limit, or before they make a mistake, or also realize if they're not into the detail, guide them into a role that doesn't require detail, or teach them processes or extra steps that helps them to improve their accuracy.
Or not miss that detail,
not miss that detail. So I think, and that's where, not to like sell Don's ITV, but that's why I think where the ITV can be really helpful if you're someone who's very sort of more, I want to say like clinical, or like black and white, or like a numbers person. The personality profiles feel and the self-awareness point feels very fluffy. It does.
Whatever
like,
word
it's not
you
like
use.
for me, leadership is more binary. Like you just do what you need to crack on and do, right?
Oof. Yeah. Oof.
But leaning into self-awareness, your own awareness of yourself and awareness of how others operate, more than just a binary, this is done or not done. Having someone who has doing that profiling, and having someone who can tell you how your team operates and who's going to need extra support and guide you through that if that's not your natural inclination or natural state of operating, has been really useful for me, because I think it's definitely helped me to support my team better than I would have been able to naturally.
So if you haven't read a book called The Motive by Patrick Lencioni, and I've spoken to you about this, but he basically, the one CEO that's succeeding, he's talking to another CEO that's not. And the successful one says, what I do is I make sure that I'm supporting my people before they hit crisis. And what it seems like you're doing is you're supporting your people when they hit crisis. And by then it's too late. So it's a really, like what you're saying there is
and I've heard something similar before about your role as the leader, or the running the team, is actually to protect or stop your team members getting too far to their point. And I feel like self-awareness has allowed me to do that for my team members, and to the point that when I have because I'm very keen on there's so much that needs to be done in business that I can find a role almost. So if there's someone who's got a good personality and they buy into our culture, I'm going to find a role that fits you. And I don't want you just to be stuck doing something you're not interested in doing. So if you're interested in a particular work or particular progression, I'm going to help support you in doing that. So your role will shift and change over time to suit you. But it's almost like, because I've got that awareness of their personality profiles, when they say, I want to do more of that type of work, or I know, I don't worry, I can handle that. I can be like, but I can have a real conversation with them and say, I don't say, well, because of your personality profile. We obviously, we talk about it, and I know it's helped me to know what is going to feed their energy. So going back to energy state, I know what feeds their energy versus what takes away from their energy. And I can guide them towards picking up more work or dropping work that is actually not suited to what truly drives them. And I can almost see that, if even where they can't define it in themselves. So I think having that personality profile has given me that.
Good answer. I think I got a lot out of that, so thank you very much.
Hopefully people listening got a lot out of it. If you are managing anyone, and this, as we even always say, applies to parenting too, if you can have a clear understanding of, and maybe it's not R3 personality profile, but it's a self-awareness and awareness of the people that you're supporting, I think that goes a long way.
I'll re-emphasize self-awareness, individual impact, collective impact, in that order. Because if you're self-aware, you're aware of how others are.
Yes.
And I think that gets evident in how I've seen your business progress and your team progress.
I feel like I have a long way to go. I don't think...
Yeah, everyone does, though.
that I'm that good at all, but I try, and I think that's the main thing.
That is
try to be better.
And if you can forgive yourself, you can learn to forgive others. And I think I definitely see that in the way you operate with your team. So I suppose now we've taken up 47 minutes of people's time, and I'm hoping you get some nuggets out of there. We've gone from Ray's story to different levels of performing and how she gets herself through things, to a bit of leadership at the end there. So there's, if we're hitting the nail on the head with this, then I really hope that you're taking some value away from today's episode, because every guest is going to do something different. If you have particular questions that you've heard asked elsewhere that you think would be a really good question for us to ask, please do put in the comments. So almost try and help us create our 5 golden questions that we will ask every guest that comes on. And I don't want to necessarily always ask people what they do, because that'll be in the introduction. I want to get straight to the meat of what's their essence, what drives them, why they're here, what are they trying to prove to the world, or what are they trying to do. So if you've got questions that work really well, we don't know all the answers, but we do this journey one by one, and we will find it eventually, but we'll do that by taking action. So
yeah. And before we do our sign off, I always like to end off by kind of giving you some actions that you could take if you want to make some improvements in your life. So we spoke about self-awareness, and a great way, I almost did talk about it as one of the answers to your questions, but a great way to get self-awareness and to understand a bit more about yourself and kind of push your own limitations is to do our 5-day challenge that we run every couple of months.
No.
So we are have actually, I don't have the date on me, but we've set the date for our next challenge. I think it's mid to end of October. So have a look out for that. If you are a keen bean and want to not miss out on that when it gets launched, and you want to be part of the next challenge, it's free to join, but we have a wait list that you can sign up to. So if you go to www.identityhuman.com, there, when you enter that into your web browser, you should come across a waitlist page. If you enter your details in there, you will be the first to be notified when we open up the sign up page for the next challenge. So that's very exciting. And we're going to be running the challenge in a slightly different format this time. We're going to bring in some live elements every day and run it through a Facebook group for something different, to try and kind of get that more interactive community.
Well, we want to learn. So we want to do it different ways and make sure that it's as effective as possible.
And the idea of that challenge is to then give you a taste for the journey that Don and I can take you on. And so at the end of the challenge, we will be telling you more about our course, Unshakable. But there's absolutely no obligation to sign up. But that's the point of the challenge, is to give you a taster. But there is also enough of a transformation that people who've come on the challenge before say they get a lot out of it. So if you want a little fun challenge in October, as the weather gets colder in the Northern Hemisphere, then please do pop on.
Yeah, I agree. Pop on.
Join in.
Pop on. Right. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Have a great week further. And as always, I'll look after me for you, and you look after you for me. Right? Ubuntu, we are who we are to others. Right. Cheers.